Good morning. My name is Ann, and I manage Artist Village Detroit, and I'm also the chairman on the board for the Detroit Blightbusters. I'd like to take a moment and welcome everyone to the Artist Village, home to the world-famous Detroit Blightbusters, founder John George, and the Motor City Java House, which is owned and operated by Alicia George. John and Alicia wish they could be here today. As many of you may know, John, my dad, never takes a day off. Alicia was finally able to get him off of Lasher and take some time for themselves. Events like these remind them that their hard work doesn't always fall on deaf ears. Moments like these make the last 31 years, $20 million raised and spent, and attracting over $80 million in investments in our neighborhood worth it. It was exactly 1 year ago yesterday that we launched the Strategic Neighborhood Fund at this very location. That launch proved to be an amazing collaboration between the city, Mayor Duggan, Councilman Tate, the neighborhood, the Detroit Blightbusters, financial institutions like Flagstar and Chemical Bank, the business district, and the community at large. We need to continue to work together by attracting new investments in our business district and neighborhoods. This is why we are so excited that the Ralph Wilson Foundation is going to make this commitment to housing, parks, and the commercial corridors in the Old Redford District and throughout Detroit. Special thanks to Mayor Duggan for his continuous support in our neighborhood. We'd also like to thank Flagstar Bank for their generous contribution in the completion of the loft and Artist Village Detroit. We appreciate all of the support, and we look forward to a better Detroit. Join us in this effort to stabilize and revitalize our community. Dave B. from Investment Detroit.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ann, and thanks for having us back 1 year later. As she pointed out, this is where we kicked everything off, and we have really had a great deal of success over this last year. Well, we're here today to celebrate the enormous commitment of the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation and the commitment that they're making to Detroit neighborhoods. We are celebrating today a $10 million gift to the Strategic Neighborhood Fund. So for those of you not completely familiar with the Strategic Neighborhood Fund at this point, you obviously haven't been going to all of these press conferences, ribbon cuttings, and openings, but that said, I'll just give you a very brief overview of the program itself. It's a public, private, and philanthropic partnership that is bringing direct investment to 10 neighborhoods across the city. And we are supporting the activation and investments in commercial corridors, the creation of new affordable housing, the improvement of significant neighborhood public amenities, things like parks and new streetscapes, and we're continuing to support the community plans that are driving all of these investments. All of this starts with a community process that creates the direction for these investments. Invest Detroit, the organization I represent, is the fiduciary and is leading the work on the commercial corridors, and we are absolutely proud to play that role. The Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation has been an important part of the work of SNF, and I just want to acknowledge this is not their first gift to the process. We actually started with 3 neighborhoods as pilot neighborhoods to prove the concept. And the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation was there with us from the beginning. So I want to acknowledge that. Obviously, with a gift like this, they are acknowledging the expansion of the program from 3 to 10 neighborhoods, but I think it's also reflective of their belief in the program, their faith in the partners to bring all of this work to life, and most importantly, their dedication to the Detroit neighborhoods and to its residents. The Strategic Neighborhood Fund itself has a goal of raising about $60 million, just under. And with this significant gift, I'm also pleased to report that we have reached 85% of our goal within this 1 year period of time. So I'm going to give us all a little bit of applause for that. We are absolutely thrilled that the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation is continuing to make these investments in the community. I'd like to welcome Livia Brockman, who's the Vice President of Programs from the Foundation, up to the podium.
Great. Well, thank you, Dave. I'm Livia Brockman, and on behalf of the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, we are really thrilled to join you here today at Artist Village to announce our investment in the Strategic Neighborhood Fund and celebrate the momentum and impact of this fund across the city. For those who may not be familiar, the Foundation is a grant-making organization dedicated to improving the quality of life for people of Southeast Michigan and Western New York. Mr. Wilson called this region home his entire life until his passing in 2014, and ran and operated businesses across 11 different industries, including the Buffalo Bills NFL franchise that he founded in 1959. Outcomes, teamwork, and innovation are three core values that the Foundation uses as lenses when evaluating grant opportunities, and the Strategic Neighborhood Fund initiative really embodies all of these values. Carrying on Mr. Wilson's legacy, the Foundation's grant-making focuses its investments in four key areas: promoting active lifestyles, preparing for success at all stages of life, supporting the important role of caregivers, and finally, spurring entrepreneurship and economic development, the focus of our commitment here today. In this critical area, the Foundation supports efforts to attain and sustain economic growth that are inclusive and equitable. One of the critical ways in which we seek to accomplish that goal is by investing in place-based community and economic development with community-based partners. The Foundation is focused on place-based investments in key commercial corridors located in underinvested areas that support neighborhood job growth, build community wealth, and generate city and regional economic development for our communities. The Strategic Neighborhood Fund is a truly innovative neighborhood-based approach that uses key local partnerships and coordination across multiple neighborhoods, as Dave mentioned, and across many city departments, paired with intensive community engagement, all with the goal of growing and improving Detroit's neighborhoods to serve existing residents and businesses, leveraging the city's tremendous assets to make it an attractive place to live for all. Today, I'm excited on behalf of the Foundation to announce a $10 million grant to Invest Detroit Foundation to support the Strategic Neighborhood Fund and the City of Detroit's work over the next 5 years. We are proud to join together with the many corporate and philanthropic partners that have also made substantial commitments to the fund. Over the next 5 years, this grant will help to strengthen and grow these commercial corridors, as well as to invest in neighborhood park development. This investment is just one of many the Foundation has made across the city of Detroit over the last few years to drive economic growth. Just a little over a year ago, we announced a major contribution to support the transformation of West Riverfront Park, the future Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Centennial Park, that will not only be an incredible resource for both residents of Detroit and visitors, but is expected the park and riverfront will also serve as a regional economic driver. As a foundation, we're excited to be able to make investments that not only contribute to the growth of the city and the region, but also drive inclusive small business and economic growth at the neighborhood level through past support of programs like the Entrepreneurs of Color Fund, Grow Detroit's Young Talent, the Joe Louis Greenway, Eastern Market, the New Economy Initiative, and other small business support organizations. I now have the great pleasure of inviting Mayor Duggan up to the podium, needs no introduction. We are proud to partner with you, Mayor Duggan, with you and your administration on this great program and many others. Thank you for your leadership in transforming and championing neighborhood growth.
Well, thanks, Livia. And it's hard to believe the Ralph Wilson Foundation has only been around for a few years, and in the short time of its existence, it is transforming this city. The West Riverfront Park is going to be spectacular, something that everyone in this city will love. But they have also been leaders in funding the Joe Louis Greenway, and funding parks across the city, and funding the rebuilding of our career technical centers in the Detroit high schools, and funding the summer jobs program in Grow Detroit Young Talent, and funding a whole bunch of the work training programs. They are very much integrated into the recovery of this city. And with today's very generous gift, we've moved the Strategic Neighborhood Fund grants over $50 million. People say, what's going on in the neighborhoods? And I know Dave Egner is on vacation today, but you know, he and Dave Blaskowitz have been architects of this strategy. 15 years ago, when I was running the Detroit Medical Center, they came to me, and Dave at the time was running, Dave Egner was running the Hudson Weber Foundation, and half of the apartments and half of the storefronts in Midtown were empty. And they came to me and the leaders at Henry Ford and Wayne State, along with a number of the philanthropic groups, and said, if we put money in here, we can get people to move into Midtown, we can get storefronts to move into Midtown. At that point, nobody knew what Midtown was. And it was their vision that if you subsidize the early developments, momentum would take off. That caused the miracle there. And people forget now when they talk about downtown, Midtown came back first. And it was because of the efforts of a whole lot of folks. And so when we started to look at the rest of the neighborhoods, we said, can we follow the Midtown strategy? And Dave Blaskowitz at Invest Detroit has been driving the investments. And we started with 3, one of which is not too far from here at Livernois and 7 Mile, and ultimately expanded to 10 neighborhoods. But on Livernois, this year, which almost all year the road's been torn up by construction, 13 new businesses have opened on Livernois in 2019 in a year filled with construction. This is what happens when you concentrate these efforts, and when you see what happens next year on that street when the road improvements are done, and that road is going to look spectacular day and night. The lighting's beautiful as well as the landscaping. It's going to bring businesses in. And interestingly, those 13 businesses that open are all owned by black entrepreneurs. We are creating opportunities for Detroiters in Detroit neighborhoods. We've got 9 other neighborhoods we want to invest in, and I greatly appreciate Flagstar, which kicked us off with a $5 million commitment to this neighborhood, and Sandro Danello and the team are already on their way and renovating the first of the houses in this neighborhood. It's going to bring this area back. And what the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation today did is made sure we could supplement all those neighborhoods with wherever you need more intense investment with a $10 million citywide contribution. And so you're going to, I believe, continue to see commercial corridor after commercial corridor come back, neighborhoods continue to come back because of this generous gift. And Livea, we deeply appreciate what you've done today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Livea. Appreciate that. Before we conclude, we thought it would be important for you to actually hear from some of the folks that are using some of these resources from SNF. So today, we're going to have 2 folks representing 2 out of the 10 neighborhoods referenced. First, Robert Walsh from Southwest Detroit Business Association is going to give us an overview of their project. And then following him, Akunna Olumba is going to talk about her project on Livernois and McNichols. So first we'll ask Rob to come up. Rob?
Thank you, Dave, and good morning, everyone. So again, as Dave mentioned, I'm with the Southwest Detroit Business Association, and Southwest Detroit was one of the 3 original neighborhoods in the Strategic Neighborhood Fund. I was telling Dave the NHL has its original 6, the SNF has its original 3. So we got a little bit of a head start. And one of the first projects I want to talk about was coordinated by Invest Detroit, shepherding the fund, and it was an approach that was a bottom-up, grassroots-driven process called Participatory Budgeting, where the fund asked local residents and stakeholders to decide basically how to spend $250,000 of infrastructure improvements in the targeted neighborhood in Southwest Detroit. And so literally hundreds of people were involved in this process. It took months to complete. and it culminated with voting by stakeholders, residents, even high school students participated, and they came up with their top 3 funded projects, which really kicked off the park renovation at Clark Park. And Clark Park, for those of you who know Southwest Detroit, is the heart and soul of Southwest Detroit in terms of gathering places. So that work is going on now, and it really has been the leverage of the catalyst for additional improvements along West Verner and Bagley, which are going to be stellar. Those investments just in infrastructure and around the park total about $7 million, and when you start to add in the residential and retail investments in the area, it's closer to $40 million. So that's in just a few short years. One of the projects that Southwest Detroit Business Association is involved in as a development partner is called Joya Gardens, which is a $12 million project, mixed use, so it's residential and commercial. Mixed income, so we're addressing the need for affordable housing as well as higher demand for market rate housing in the area. It'll be 53 units, 1 block east of Clark Park, again, and built on vacant land, so there's no displacement of anyone in order to build this project. The SNF fund has been critical in providing early financing commitments to that project, and so we're still moving towards concluding our financing, but we've got the entire community really excited about what Maurice Cox, our former planning development director, used to call really the kind of project that needs to happen in the neighborhoods. And the last thing that I want to talk about is a direct contribution that our organization, the Southwest Detroit Business Association, has received from the Wilson Foundation to support our work with local contractors in the construction industry, everything from transportation, infrastructure, commercial, and residential construction. We focus on Detroit-based, minority-owned, women-owned firms that lack the capacity to bid successfully on some of these bigger projects that are available coming down the pike. So we work with them to help achieve certifications that they need, to build their back room so that they are better prepared to bid on and successfully obtain these contracts. And we know from experience that these same Detroit-based contractors, minority-owned, women-owned, will hire Detroiters when they are successful. And so, you know, the circle completes itself in terms of floating all boats, in terms of raising equity and investment and prosperity for all Detroiters. So we are very thankful to the Strategic Neighborhood Fund as well as the Wilson Foundation for its support today. Thank you. And I'm happy to present Akunna for some stories about what she's working on.
Yes. Good morning, all. You've heard from way from the top, so I'm going to be way at the bottom. We are actually the recipient, and I represent Legacy City Group and the Detroit Pizza Bar. We are actually a recipient of Strategic Neighborhood Funds. Our project, which will open in the Livernois 6 Mile area, which will open in August of next year, is only here because of a grant from Strategic Neighborhood Fund. What have we been able to do with our money from Strategic Neighborhood Fund? We've been able to invest in the people of the Liv 6 area. Our Strategic Neighborhood Fund our Strategic Neighborhood Fund dollars have been able to help us to develop a workforce development program for our 18 full-time employees that will be hired, so they will have certifications that they can use when they're no longer employed with us. It has allowed us to have a blue roof and gray water infrastructure, so for sustainability purposes. And more importantly, it has helped us be able to add to the city of Detroit some value. And from a very small standpoint, our Strategic Neighborhood Fund comes with support from Invest Detroit, HRD, and the city of Detroit for the next 5 years, so we are not going it alone. And I think that is one of the important things that the Strategic Neighborhood Fund grant gives to new developers and entrepreneurs of color, is that you're able to have that support to push your project through and to make sure that in the communities that we're in, we spent 80 hours in the Live 6 area talking to community members, community developers about what they wanted to see. And we believe that the fruition of the Detroit Pizza Bar, which construction will start next week, does really encompass all of that, the best that Detroit has to offer, and the future of what strategic neighborhood funds and this very directed approach of ensuring that the commercial corridors in Detroit are activated and alive. So we want to thank the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation for their grant today, but also Invest Detroit and the City of Detroit for staying and being committed to the entrepreneurs and the developers, particularly of color, within the City of Detroit. So thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Akunna. That's exactly the points we're trying to make. You can see the investment going right into work. This is direct investment in the neighborhoods. So before we conclude, I just want to reemphasize the importance of public-private, kind of philanthropic partnerships and the power that they can bring to community. When you get behind the curtain, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be coordinated. We've got a number of folks that are participating from a variety of different perspectives, and just getting that to work, all of us pulling the rope in the same direction can be an incredibly difficult effort. One of the people I have to acknowledge is Katie Trudeau, who has been doing an amazing job of coordinating, 35 different departments and whatever else it takes to deliver. We have a 5-year plan with a great deal of detail matched out, and it takes an incredible effort to lead that process, so I want to acknowledge her. I also want to acknowledge, hand in glove here, Arthur Jemison, who will come up and bring us home. Arthur is the one charged by the mayor to deliver the SNF program, and he has been an absolutely amazing partner. So with that, Arthur Jemison.
Well, that was unexpected, but appreciated. Not necessary. Work is sort of self-explanatory. It's so fun working with neighbors, with investors, with everybody that it takes to put this together, and of course members of my team I'm very appreciative of. I do want to, before I say a few words about building on the statements that have been made about the way and the manner in which this money is going to be expended and the impact it's going to have, I did want to single out another person in particular. None of this would be possible without the great work of our development and grants team led by Ryan Friedrichs. I want to give you a special hand clap for everything you do. I know, Speaker, the Mayor, and everybody on our team, you are a critical part of not just the achievement of things like today with Livia and Dave and Wilson, but really the concept development. You're instrumental to all that, so thanks again, Ryan. One of the reasons I'm excited about today is because we've got the Ralph Wilson Foundation, and we've got Livia and Dave Egner, who've been critical to the way that this entire thing's been conceived here, and we're recognizing their contribution. But I have the luxury of tonight going to East Warren and Cashew and starting a community process in a neighborhood where, if it were not for these funds, the aperture, the entire scale of our vision would be different because we would be working only with the funds that the city and potentially the state might be able to bring to bear. The fact that we have philanthropy here today with us, part of the envisioning process, means that the vision that community members can participate in is widened and enlarged just by the fact that we know that as we come up with plans, we'll have the resources to implement them on a reliable schedule with the best professionals from Detroit and the country contributing. That's the difference that it means, not just for the businesses that we've had up here talking about impacts that are being felt today. It also changes the way we view the future and the way we view the future in the neighborhoods that are going to be the beneficiary of these grant funds. So I am thrilled to be here and to join all the other folks here who've thanked Ralph Wilson for the opportunity. I'm also excited about every board and commission and every thing that comes with the implementation of these grant funds, and I appreciate all my planning team, including Katie and others, what that's going to take to get this implemented. So with that, I just want to say thanks again. Thank you for coming out today, and I ask Dave Blaskowitz to close us out.
I think Arthur just did. So with that, we'll break up. Thanks, Arthur. I think we're good to go. We're going to all hang out for a little bit. If you guys have any additional questions, happy to answer them. Thank you.